And now, in this moment, I invite everyone to just take a nice, deep, cleansing breath. Allow the radiant light that is Spirit to just wash over you. And as you release the breath, release all doubts, release all worries. Let go of any stress and tension you may be holding in your body. And if you feel so inclined, go ahead and take another nice, deep, cleansing breath in, allowing the radiant light in. And as you release this breath, allow your body to just relax in this moment. And allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own, for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives.
Pick up on that. Another bit of musical trivia is that in 1990, the Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion opened in the Woodlands. It's one of America's premier amphitheaters and outdoor music venues. Their first performer in 1990, this is the answer to a trivia question a lot of people get wrong. The first performer was Frank Sinatra. But the performer who played there most often over the years was Jimmy Buffett. So we said goodbye to Jimmy Buffett this weekend, and I didn't know that this talk or this series of talks was going to have its rims salted by some quotes and lyrics from Jimmy Buffett, but things change. So there we are. So I welcome you to a series on work. I thought it's Labor Day, leading into September, leading into this time of year when we get busy. Everybody in this part of the world and on the calendar that we follow, people hunker down right now and they get busy, and it's, the last quarter and all of this sort of thing that we're moving into. And so I thought, well, let's talk about work and money and commerce from a spiritual perspective, from a metaphysical perspective. Also remembering what our friend Emerson told us over the last couple of months that we've been studying him, where he said, for you, there is a fit place and congenial duties. There's a fit place and enjoyable duties for you. And he said something else which I didn't quote in the last couple of months, and we'll parse this some more in the weeks to come, but he said, money, which is hardly spoken of in parlors without an apology, is, in its effects and laws, as beautiful as roses. As beautiful as roses. So there is, in our contention, one life. There is one mind, there is one power, there is a principle by which that power moves itself into form, and you and I utilize that power, manage that power, and navigate through that power. And if there is but one power, if there is but one mind and one life, then it applies to everything and it operates through everything. And no longer can we separate reality effectively into the sacred and the profane. except for conversational purposes. Everything is holy now. Everything is part of the process, including the stuff that we might consider tawdry or unspeakable or not worth a mention in a place like this on a Sunday morning, like Monday morning, like what we're going to get busy doing tomorrow. All of that now comes under this single overarching reality of spiritual life. Spiritual life. So what is our work? So I thought for today, let's start with vision. Vision and vocation. What is vision? This is a term that you hear so often in metaphysics, so often in the New Age methodologies, that it kind of loses its meaning sometimes. It sort of falls apart. I had a vision. I have a vision for my life. And people, when they say that, they get this kind of wild-eyed look sometimes, you know. Sort of, I have this vision like I can't control it. It's overtaking me. It's eviscerating me. And it's turning me into a strange person who has sort of this faraway look in their eyes. It's sort of, God, I'm turning into a mystic. And you know how those mystics are. The mystics are kind of useless people who I don't know, they kind of dwell on the fringes of society. That's another bias that we've had. Everybody wants the mystical secret, but they don't want to be considered a mystic because mystics are strange. Mystics don't get invited to the parties and that kind of thing. No, we have this overblown idea of a vision like it comes to you, and I think for a lot of us in the Western world, it was Saul on the road to Damascus that ruined us for the idea of a personal mystical experience, because it knocked him off his donkey. It set him, he was blinded for a number of days. It was this traumatic thing, and while he came out, the story tells you on the right side of history, it's not something any of us want to go through. And it's like, I'd rather just read about that than have that happen to me. And that's a challenge for us in spirituality. We want to read about what the ancients did, and we want to read about the people who were faithful to God, but we don't want to take the same steps because they're, you know, painful and or at least inconvenient and uncomfortable. Well, my aim is to demystify stuff. This is why I get up here every Sunday. I want to demystify spirituality because it is beautiful and it is sacred and it is even mysterious, but it needs uncomplicating, and some of it needs flat out unlearning. So I'm going to express to you what my opinion is of visioning, of the vision that you might have, of the mystical experience that you might have, which is informed by the opinions of Ernest Holmes and a lot of other people, but I'll chiefly take responsibility for it because I don't want to just be a cover band for them. So the vision of your life is the context, the framing context in which you hold everything that you are about. It's like a diorama. It's an environment. It's a whole environment that encircles you when you close your eyes. Your vision of your life is how you hold yourself in the environment of the experience of your life, your thoughts and especially your feelings, how you place yourself in that space. And then you open your eyes and you confront the world of material form that may not conform and probably doesn't yet conform to the inner vision. And what do you do about that? What do you do about that? Now, bear in mind that what I'm describing here is something everybody's doing and everybody has, not just the people who know about it, not just the people who've learned about it. Everybody's doing this. Science mind is something everybody's practicing, whether they've heard of it or not. So you go into your interior space, you have this inner vision of things, you open your eyes, you look at the world, and the world looks kind of drab. It doesn't match up to this inner experience. So what do you do about that? You know what a lot of people do about that? They drug themselves. They go unconscious with various forms and substances and processes and whatnot to shut out the pain of the outer reality looking so drab and gray and uninteresting. And you know what the spiritual warrior does? The spiritual seeker does? The spiritual seeker adapts the outer experience to match the inner. It says, my power comes from within. My power comes from my source. All power comes from the source. And what I am perceiving in the world is but a reflection of consciousness. It's just structures in form, the outer crust, really, of an inner process that's dynamic. The real life is within. Now, they may not say it in those words, but that's the feeling that they come to when they decide to take charge. When we decide to take charge of our reality and say, okay, when I close my eyes, I see nirvana. I see paradise. I see this beautiful world where everybody gets along and everybody's having a wonderful time, and and there's creativity. It's not just this passive thing where everybody's sitting there. It's there's a what do you call a ferment of dynamic creativity. Then I open my eyes and I see something different, so I'm going to change what I see when I open my eyes. I'm going to transform the quality of life, one step at a time. And believe it or not, I know you do, but believe it or not, when you make that kind of commitment within yourself, all of a sudden you have the tools and the capacities and the ideas and everything else at hand to do just that, to make a difference. And people are watching you make a difference, and they start wanting to make a difference because they see a difference being made. So whenever there's somebody that you admire and what they're doing in their life, what they're performing in their life, you're admiring them because something in you is catching fire from their flame, something in you. It may not be to do what they're doing exactly or even approximately, but it's to do something. It's to do something. So vision is something that every one of us have. This inner vision, this inner knowing. It's not strange and different, and yeah, it can present itself sometimes in interesting ways to get our attention, but really it's right here. And I think of it this way. Look around at your life at the stuff that's obvious to you and the stuff that's laying in plain sight that you may have overlooked. And I thought of this. There was I was thinking about features and stuff and facets of things that we might have overlooked, and I flashed on a memory of I was sitting at my desk in my office years ago, and the phone rang, and this woman that I was working on a project with at the time, she said, I have that information, and I talked to so-and-so, and I don't even remember what the project was, but I have that information. She said, guess where I'm calling from? I don't know. She said, my car. My car. Her company had given her a car with a car phone. And we thought, this is so strange. How is this ever, And it's like, so anyway, that was just a memory that I flashed on. Somebody had a vision of something, didn't they? Wouldn't it be wonderful if, and you watch all these old movies and people are scouring the city for a phone booth, and then the phone book's been ripped out of it, and what are we going to do now? And everything that was once remarkable becomes commonplace, and that's the price we pay. That's the price we pay for change, is that now it's ordinary. So I was thinking about this in the context of like your phone. Do you have your phone handy? I bet you do. Some of you are probably scrolling through it even as we speak. We used to have big picture windows you could look out. Now, no. Some of you are looking, all right, your phone, I promise you, has features that you have not yet explored. Your car, I promise you, has features you have not yet explored. Appliances in your home, maybe even your toaster, has features. Oh, I didn't know it would do that. I discovered on my toaster that if you put the toast down with the typical little plunger thing, that the plunger has a push-in button on it that if it starts to burn, or if you decide you want your toast sooner than later, you push the button and the toast pops up. I didn't know it did that until accidentally I hit it, and it's like, whoa. I bring this up because there are these features that we have. Many of them we don't need. Many of them we wouldn't know what to do with. But it's emblematical of what's true in life. There's a feature to absolutely everything that you have not yet discovered, including yourself, including your own inner process. There are features to your own spiritual work that you've not yet uncovered. Why? Either because you haven't looked or because you haven't needed to. You haven't needed them, but they're there. And as these things present themselves, you get new assignments. You get new stuff to do. Why, I didn't know I could do that, we say to ourselves. And then we pick the thing up, and all of a sudden, I bring this up constantly in reference to our musicians here. You pick up a musical instrument, you know what happens next? A song comes into your head. Probably a song nobody's ever heard before, because it's your song. And it's meeting you at the point of you picking up that instrument so that you can do what songs want to have done, which is to be sung, and beyond that, to be written and to be shared and to live in perpetuity in the minds of other people. I heard this great quote the other day. I don't know who it came from. It said, if you give somebody a gift, then you don't have the gift. You don't have. I'm garbling this because I'm working from memory, but you don't have the thing you gave them. It's like Susie has 3 apples and gives Jimmy 2, that kind of thing. Well, you have this, but you give them an idea. Now you each have 2. Now they bring somebody else in with the idea. Now the ideas multiply. You see, there's never a vacuum. There's never a decline in the experience. Always an enhancement to the experience as new ideas are fostered. So the vision of your life is right at hand. It's right where you are now. It is not winding up to throw itself at you. It is not in some other dimension, waiting for the right time, waiting for your spiritual maturity. Or, as a trip we often run on ourselves, and it's not waiting for you to have forgiven the very last person that you need to forgive. It's not waiting for you to offload the guilt that you have been carrying around. It's not waiting for you to be this wonderful person, this absolute, just shining example of humanity. It's there now in you, this vision, this context. It's not the same thing as goals. It contains goals. It contains specifics. But it's principally a feeling. It's principally a feeling of yes, that right now I live in a safe and loving and beautiful and harmonious inner universe that daily I am making real and tangible in my physical world. I am doing this through acts of kindness, charity, humor. Humor is important. We get all serious in this sometimes. I'm a compassionate person. Well, sometimes what people need from compassionate people is a laugh, not just sympathy and the heavy, moribund kind of energy. So all of these capacities, all of these qualities, all of these affinities that we have, all of these different interests that we have, they're all part of our particular vision. And it is present for us right now, which brings us to vocation. Vocation is a word, if you look it up, means career or job path, but it goes deeper than that because they speak of religious vocations, and that would be, for example, joining an order, like becoming a monk or a nun or a priest or something. Those are spoken of as orders, literally orders of vocation, sacraments of vocation. Vocation is a spiritual calling, so it sounds a lot like a vision. To me, it's the implementation of a vision. You implement the vision through the vocation that you have, which brings us to Labor Day and work and all the rest of this. So what do you do for a living? And that's how we often describe it, as we say, this is what I do for a living. But I also do this and this and this. People typically are interested in what you do for a living. That's like the main thing, because then these are the judgments that we have. That's kind of then where they know where to put you. They know where to place you. Oh, you're a professional person, or you're a highly educated person, or you must make a lot of money doing what you do, When you say, yeah, but I'd really rather play the guitar. Yeah, but no. Back to this vocation of yours. Well, vocation is made up as well as the inner vision. The vocation is the implementation of the inner vision through a particular life path called work. And we work, don't we? We work. We work so that people will give us money, and we can take the money and buy things with it, like houses and clothing and food and interesting things and fun things, and take a break every now and then, take a vacation, get away from it all. This is the cycle that we've set up in a capitalist system, in a materialist system. It's a cycle that we've set up, and everybody finds their place in the like a cog in the wheel, you know, and hunkers down to do their particular work so that they can, quote unquote, earn a living. Now, whatever you may think of this system, it does have a spiritual dimension back of it, as all systems do. And the spirituality of the thing is, it's a way of being rewarded. It's a way of being compensated. It's also a way of sort of having a performance benchmark to your life, to what you do. You know the expression, I don't know much about art, but I know what I like. How do you know? How do you know that what you're doing is being appreciated in the world? Well, one kind of clumsy way we have of showing that is by giving people money for it. And so you paint a picture, and I like it, and I want to take it home, so I'm going to pay you money for it. I'm also going to haggle with you, because if you name a price on your painting, I'm not going to want to pay it, so I'm going to want to pay you less, and that's part of the game, too. And so there's constant haggling, and, you know, if there's a sale going on, everybody kind of stampedes over to where the sale's happening, and it's just part of the thing. And then don't get me started on the stock market, because that's the most ephemeral of all of these, where the supposition of how something is going to do, how a business or industry is going to do, or the supposition in the commodities market of how a particular crop yield is going to turn out, in advance of it happening, causes people to wager on the outcome. And you can read the news in a given day, and something awful will have happened in the world, and the stock market's doing great, you know. So there's like no sort of ethical connection, it seems, no value-based connection between how well heaven on earth is expressing itself and how well certain things or stocks are yielding into the world. And that's part of the game. And that's part of why we look askance at this stuff, set it aside, say it's materialistic and crass and so on. Except, of course, in every place it says that, they take up a collection, as we will here, because we need money to pay the light bill and to do this and that and the other thing. See, so we have this real confused experience with it, which is why Emerson said, though it is hardly spoken of without an apology, it is in its effects and laws as beautiful as roses. Why? Because it follows the train of consciousness. If you'd like to have more money in your life, all you need are bigger ideas in your life, and things will begin to come about. The universe doesn't prize money the way we do. It just sees it as supply. It sees it as leaves on a tree or grains of sand on a beach. We move supply around based on consciousness. So in your vocation, I believe what you want. You know, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? You want to feel good about that. You want to have a vocation that's workable for you and fun and interesting and challenging and so on. And you also don't want to be locked into it forever. You want to have a free and open relationship with it. You can add and combine different aspects to it, or perhaps go off in a whole new direction altogether. All of this is possible for each one of us, and it's also right in front of us. Now here is the big metaphysical secret about having the right career, having a career that you love, having a job that you love, having a livelihood that you love. You may doubt what I'm about to say, but I'd ask for you to try it. I'd ask for you to try it and see. And it sounds, well, you'll see how it sounds. The trick to the thing is this: whatever you're doing right now, love it. Fall in love with it, whatever you're doing right now. If you're on an assembly line right now with hundreds of other people and you're putting, I don't know, caps on tubes of toothpaste, till you could scream. But you get a paycheck. You get a window envelope every 2 weeks from this, you know? You are not only being compensated for the work that you're doing, but you are doing something essential. You are doing something so incredibly valuable. The only people who don't think it's valuable are the people looking over your shoulder who think that it's beneath them to put tops on tubes of toothpaste. In other words, the people who are judging you, who are the same people stuck in unconsciousness who would judge you about the kind of car you drive or the kind of house you live in or the kind of lover you have, or, you know, who are just basically up in judgment. And they get to judge you about this because they happen to know about this. But they're not you, and they don't have to live in your head, and they certainly don't have to live in your heart. So fall in love with what you're doing. Fall in love with what you're doing. I was in a store one time. I was picking up dry cleaning, I think. And this person in front of me kind of had a complaint about their cleaning, and they were talking to the counter person about it and so on. And when they got it handled and left, and the counter, then I'm next, you know. And the counter person is like, man, I hate this job. I hate this. It said something about their chi, which I thought was interesting because that's not a concept you hear a lot out in the world from people who aren't experienced in metaphysical type things. They were talking about their mellow was harsh, you know, their chi was disturbed by the interaction with this complaining person. And I just smiled and kind of shook my head, and afterward I was thinking, because you don't want to take liberties. God, the last thing people need is a sermon from a visiting minister. Well, you know, if she'd be like, did I ask? Well, yeah, you kind of did, because you told me you know. But what I was thinking on the way out is, you'll still be doing this. When it's time for you to have moved on, you'll still be doing this because you haven't gotten the lesson, if you will, of the experience, which is love what you do. Bless those who persecute you. The person who went off about the dry cleaning was not vulgar. They were not, I mean, there are certain lines that can be crossed that you absolutely do not have to take. They were insistent about the fact there was a spot on the thing or whatever, that, you know, they didn't. And it's like, then what you do is you try to fix it because they paid good money to get their cleaning done, and you look at that as being you as a healing agent in that situation. And love what you do. Fall in love with what you do. Be grateful for what you have to do. And I know this sounds nutty, maybe. But if you're grateful for what you do, the subconscious mind says you're grateful for what you do. And it has no clue as to what exactly it is you do. It just knows a general vibe of gratitude. And so it brings you more stuff that you can legitimately be grateful for. And if you say and feel and dwell in the idea that I hate my job, I hate what I'm doing here, this miserable thing, I resent this, and then the subconscious mind picks up on that and again has no fact base to sort this, oh, you mean this and not that. No, that's not what it does. That's what the conscious mind, that's what the intellect does. But the subconscious mind just takes this impulse of power of resentment. It just knows the energy of resentment. And you know what it does? It goes and finds more experiences to resent. Not to punish you, but because that's what it does, is it responds by corresponding. It brings in reciprocal experience. That's all it knows how to do. So we're the ones, we, meaning up here in the conscious mind, are the ones who have to train ourselves to think and feel in different ways. And then a vocation comes knocking to you. Something powerful starts to show up. Jimmy Buffett kind of flamed out as a musician in Nashville. He started out wanting to be a country musician. Well, he started out wanting to be a journalist. He got a journalism degree. He wanted to be a songwriter and a country musician. He went to Nashville, and things didn't really work out. Nashville's incredibly competitive, and he just kind of didn't fit the scene, and so he moved to Key West, and he began to tour small, what we would call dive bars and little clubs across the South with his body of music. And he performed one night in Austin, Texas, live music capital of the world, by the way, and then stayed after and drank too much. And the next morning, he had a girlfriend in Austin. And the next morning, she had agreed to take him to the airport to fly back to the Keys, and they met for breakfast. And he decided to drink some more. Okay, so they had margaritas and burritos at a Mexican restaurant in Austin. And he sat there, and apparently, while this was going on, he realized that his relationship with this woman was on its way out. Don't know why, doesn't matter, but he was sad. He got very melancholic as a result of this. And so when she dropped him off at the airport with his guitar, and he waved goodbye to her, he kind of, I think, it was like forever, you know. And so sad, hungover, also drunk over. He sat at the gate in the Austin airport waiting for his plane, took out his guitar, and started to write a song. Then the plane came, he got on, he flew to the Keys, and somebody picked him up. I don't know, a cab or what, but there was a traffic accident on the bridge into the Keys on A1A, and so in the back of the car, he again took out his guitar and he finished the song that he started writing at the airport, and the song was called Margaritaville. And this became huge, as you know. This put him on the map. This made this man ultimately a billionaire. And there aren't a lot of musical, you can number pretty much on two hands the musical billionaires there are. What happened here? He listened to his pain. He listened to, and at the same time, he tapped into an archetypal, with apologies, an archetypal energy of leisure. Because there are archetypes for all sorts of the quest and discovery and success and all sorts of archetypes of big, loud, important things, but there's also an archetype of rest, an archetype of just simple enjoyment, which for a lot of people looks like a cold drink and a hot beach. And he tapped into this. And all of a sudden, people had a whole ethos sprung up out of this. Because one day, this guy who had hit a wall in one area of creative endeavor in his life sat and listened to how he was feeling and turned it into this. And if you listen to Margaritaville, if you listen to the lyrics of it, it's a sad song. I'm wasting away again. You know, I wake up and I have this new tattoo, and I apparently had all this fun, but I missed it because I went unconscious, you know. Well, why I bring this up, not just in due respect to Jimmy Buffett, why I bring this up to you is that the idea of creating a context, a vision-like context of your life is easier than you think. It's where would you go and who would you be if you could go anywhere and be anyone? then go there in your mind. You're entitled. You're not stepping on anybody else's privilege. You're not trespassing on anybody else's dreams. Go there in your mind. How would it be? And what would you be doing there? Would you just be sitting there staring out to sea? I wouldn't be on a beach with a cold drink. For one thing, I don't drink. For another thing, I sunburn easily, you know. So it's like I got to adapt this story. I've got to bring in some other things. But I also wouldn't be too far from an ocean, because if I'm too far from an ocean, I can't breathe. I've discovered that. I'm not a mountain type person. I'm not a middle of the country type person. I need that. I don't know why, you know. So look in your life and look at the different aspects of consciousness that you would cobble together as real for you. Then realize that what you need to do that, to assemble all of these, is right around you right now. It's not waiting till the next book. It's not waiting till the next class. It's right where you are right now. This one power, this one framing reality. So next week we're going to get into this. So when we talk about spiritual macroeconomics, I'm going to take some liberties next week I'm taking liberties with different books this month. We're going to, U.S. Anderson's The Secret of Secrets is going to be one. Seeing God at Work by Edward Viljoen and Joyce DeFala is another. And also the classic work, Spiritual Economics by Eric Butterworth. I'm going to take some liberties with that next week when we talk about spiritual macroeconomics and how the world works together in its transactions, and it's bringing spirit into form in a particular way. Right now, let's know together, there is one life, one power, one presence, pure spirit, everywhere radiant, everywhere magnificent, on this beautiful day, this Labor Day weekend, this holiday weekend. I affirm and know for each one of us here there is an unfolding vision occurring within. It's been there all along. We've known it since childhood, perhaps before. And it won't leave us alone. It keeps showing up in some way or another. We notice through our senses sequences of things, and they remind us of something, and they call to us. They're like an untied shoelace, you know? They call to us, do something with me. One great spiritual teacher said that, driven by the forces of love, the fragments of the world seek each other so that the world might come into being. These fragments of the world present themselves to us for assembly and cohesion. We are up to the task. We have asked for the task. We have presented ourselves here on time and in full as the agents of healing, best suited to this moment, these conditions, and this future that stretches ahead. For this knowing and its manifestation and form everywhere we turn, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
All right. So something that Jesse said struck me. Because this morning when I was doing the reading, which I cannot remember the name of right now because it was a really long title, but I was talking about heaven. And I said what my heaven would look like. Because I was talking, I love the mountains. I also burn, so the ocean is not my heaven. And then I said, casually, oh, and I'd be surrounded by books. And then I looked slightly to my left at this floor-to-ceiling wall unit, which is mostly filled with books. So if we want to talk about, and it caught me off guard. For a minute I went, wait a minute. I am surrounded by books. So if we're going to talk about our inner life, our inner vision, being reflected in our outer world, and everything that we need is already there. Sometimes it just means we need to pay a little bit more attention. So as I come to this portion of closing prayer, I'm going to invite you consciously into the sacred. It's all sacred all the time, but I'm reminding you now to enter into the sacred consciously with me and know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And that love flows through each and every one of us out into this world to do amazing things. We live that life. We are that presence. And that power flows through us. So as we step into, dare I say, fall, you're stepping into the harvest season. What have you been growing and nurturing all summer is coming into fruition now. So I invite you into the consciousness of your harvest, to see all of the things that create your heaven on earth more clearly. And a little bit of rain would be nice too. So I'm inviting Spirit to bring us a little bit of rain, gently, softly, cooling. I would do a rain dance if I thought it would help. And I know this with gratitude. I am grateful for a teaching that teaches me what heaven is, because it's a what, not a where. I am grateful for a community where I can come together with like-minded individuals and we can share our ideas of heaven. And we can share that love and that presence. I am grateful for our practitioners, our ministers, our musicians, the technology that allows us to send this out to where it will do the most good. I am grateful for each and every one of you. And I am grateful because grateful is just another word for love. And it is the greatest power on earth. And I relax and I release into love and law and know that it is so. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me. I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use it.
And I love it.
And I love
And
it.
so it is.
So it is.